And we're good. We're rolling.
All right. So, Eric, I wanted to... Oh, what a shit show. Okay, I wanted to start today's podcast off a little lighter. So, this is so funny. The game has changed, man. The game has changed. So Dalton Prout brought it. He walks in the other day and he goes, Packer, I got this book. You have to read it. It's from, I'll bring it tomorrow, from Phil and Tony Esposito. It's called, I'm going to show the camera here, We Can Teach You How to Play Hockey. So this was written in...
Just pull that up to your face a little bit. Yeah.
Sorry. This was written in 1972. So I was just out of diapers. I was 3 years old. So in this book, it's just like a whole lot of pictures. Like, I'm not going to go through it, but it's hilarious to me. So what it starts off with how to play hockey. It shows you the rink diagram, and it shows this is a face-off dot. But you got to remember, this is 1972.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know. That's like as if you didn't know what a rink was if you were playing. But the face-off dot, the goal line, like they're thinking this is like cutting edge. Yeah, cutting edge stuff.
Oh, is it that? It wasn't a joke. Like it's actually serious.
Here, like one of the first pages here. Like here, I'm going to pull it up for you.
Nice.
Absolutely hilarious. Well, like now I'm just eating up time. There it is. Right?
Show the camera.
Show the camera.
Yeah,
okay, so this is the first thing you need to know. Is that's the rink diagram. Yeah. And it shows you the face-off dots and stuff. And then
just trying to spread the game.
Oh yeah, just trying to be and they were probably like, we're going to write this book and we're going to teach people how to play
I wonder
hockey.
what
and
they were
started
actually
with like, okay, well, you know where we should go? We should start with like what the rink actually, what's on the rink.
Yeah.
Because I know if
Step
you've been
one.
to a game, step one is like if you got to know what you're playing on, right? So I thought that was funny. The next part of book on how to play hockey is how to put on your gear. And what each piece of information. Yeah, look at the freaking book. Look, there he is. He's getting dressed. This is your jock strap. So here's a line. This is hilarious. Okay, so you start dressing with long underwear to absorb perspiration, and to be sure to wear a cup for protection.
Hey, the scientific terminology.
Yeah.
Didn't say sweat. Yeah, perspiration.
Yeah. Phil's at his best there. He's probably like 8 beers deep when he wrote it. Then it was. Then he said he envisioned, like really early in this book, because he was talking about the gear, he went to the helmet. And he goes, I need glasses here. He envisioned a day where everyone in hockey will have to wear one. He said, including the NHL.
Yeah.
So he was like pretty sharp back in the day. Okay, so this is like the neat thing. So just going back, talking about the cost of hockey. Helmet, you're going to have to spend somewhere between $20 and $25. Gloves, $10 to $40. Shoulder pads, anywhere between $5 and $25. And sticks, he didn't have a price, but I know back in those days we used to fill up the car. Yeah. Like honestly, go to a Texaco gas station, fill up the car, and if you put $10 in, you can grab a Northland stick, and I had about 20 of those as a kid. Hilarious. So then he goes into some drills for hockey. So one's the knee pull. So you're on the ice and you grab your stick and you pull your knee up. Right? You know that one? The leg drag. I love this.
Oh, the leg drag's the best.
Yeah. We drag the leg behind you to go stretch the old groins out. Yeah. Hilarious. The knee bend, which is like basically a squat on the ice. So this is like a huge exercise. Yeah. He made a recommendation to keep your feet on the ice. Oh, wow. I don't know how you play hockey without it, but yeah. Then the old school leg kick. Yeah. So you have the stick up, and we used to do those as a kid, and dead serious. Yeah. We'd like you start your practice off, and coach would be okay, like hard between the blue lines. Then okay. Kicks and
I think that was just coming like out of style when I was a kid. I remember doing those like hard between the lines, down and up between the lines, all these like little warm up stretch type skates, like lengths.
Oh man, it's the best.
That's very funny.
Old school, and then the track.
Did they actually write it?
Yeah, they wrote it together.
Yeah, Tony and Phil
Esposito.
Jesus,
they're talking about
Phil.
So so let's just look at how the game has changed, and like no disrespect at all, because I mean the game has changed. It's a different game. We still have guys that are their mindset hasn't changed a whole lot, that are still coaching and running teams.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy. Like the train, like, so now, like, let's just go to the cost. Oh, by the way, he was right about the helmets.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go to the cost of hockey. Like you can't even, I don't know if you can get a puck for $5 to $25. You know what I mean?
Seriously.
The stick now, like, oh, yeah, that's unbelievable. But those exercises are like so fun. Can you imagine someone like, and it's an actual thought. Like, so some of these guys have not really changed a whole lot, and they're still imposing old school mentalities, old school training. Don't even have a clue what training is all about.
Yeah. Well, the other day we were talking about kind of what's going on with the minor hockey teams around and how they're still trying to hang on to having a season and whatever because we're still not allowed to play in Ontario right now. And I was asking you about like who's running some of like the centers, right? Like who are the people in charge that are like making the choices? Yeah. And you're telling me some of these names and I'm like, these guys are still running these organizations. It's like they've been doing it since before I started playing hockey. Yeah. Like before me, they were still
176 years old.
It's at a certain point and it kind of speaks to like that having like some integrity and some honesty with yourself in the sport. It's like you're no longer unless you're one of those rare people that just is constantly staying up to date with how things should be run and whatever, and there are those people, but knowing some of the people that are running it, it's like you guys you're just out of date now. You don't know what the right decisions are. We were talking about like the late ice times and this kind of stuff, and it was just like, who is letting these people stay in control? Yeah.
So I had the conversation with our coach the other day because like I'm gassed today. Yeah. And like on my recovery on my thing, so I'm running at about 20% of a gas tank. Yeah. I'm a 52-year-old man. These kids are like, so I asked the coach the other day because it was like even last year the practice. I'm like, why is it so late? So they have 2 pads at the arena, and they dedicate one to the zone that my son plays for. Right. And the practices now, because they're 15, 16, minor midget, are 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, they get all the late times,
9 o'clock at night. So you're not getting to bed really till 11:30, 12.
Dude, you know what I'm doing at 9 o'clock at night?
I'm in bed usually.
Sleeping.
Well, that's why I'm so gassed right now.
I'm asleep. Yeah.
Like I'm running on fumes. But so I asked the coach, I said, what sense does this make? There's 2 pads. Why not go 4 or 5 o'clock on both pads for Adam and Pee Wee, and then on separate nights, and then Bantam and Midget.
Yeah. Everyone's out by 8.
You'll be out by 8. Yeah. And he said one of the old school thinking, like on the board, they're saying, well, the South Rink is where we play, and we want the kids to know the bounces of the rink. Yeah. I'm like, that. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Are you kidding me?
So that trumps getting to bed on time.
Well, it's so unhealthy.
It's like the worst.
Like if you even have a clue about life, if you have any idea about health and wellness and performance and stuff, getting more sleep or proper sleep and nutrition is way more important than the bounce of the rink. That doesn't matter anyways.
Yeah, well, exactly. It doesn't matter anyways. But the other thing too is like the amount of negatives that come from that. So it's like they're forced to get up early for school. Nothing they can do about that. Nothing right? You can do. So now you have an option to give them an earlier ice time, and you're not because of some stupid reason like that. That's makes no sense and is irrelevant. Yeah. So now you're forcing them to go to bed later. Yeah. They're going after doing a workout. Their skate is a workout, right? So they're all wound up. So by the time they actually get home, get to like wind down, get to sleep, midnight.
It's midnight.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they have to get up at 7:30 to get ready to go to school.
It's
right?
ludicrous.
It's like, man, it's not. Do you think that's good for the kids? Like, do you think that's better for the kids? So this is what I'm talking about. It's like, who's letting these guys be the decision makers and stay in that role without any
repercussions?
But not even like a requirement. Like, okay, you have to retake a certain certification, or you have to retake like something just to show that you're staying. Informed about what the best
current
practice, what the best practices are, right? Yeah, like your practice is gonna be at 9 o'clock because of the bounces on the rink. It's just ridiculous.
Read one book, Sleep Smarter.
Yeah, there's again, man.
Read that and realize that you it's the most dangerous thing. It's worse than drunk driving. More accidents caused by people not being able to sleep than there are drunk drivers, and they just go through the stats. And if you just read that, then a priority would be 100%. These kids need to be on the ice and off the ice sooner than later. And the ice rentals for the rink, they're still going to sell their 8 o'clock ice to the beer leagues and to the hockey schools and to the people that want to buy it because they'll take whatever's available.
Yep.
So I don't understand at all. And then, so it's
frustrating. Point, man. Game's changing. It's outdated.
How it's changed. It's incredible. So and so this book is hilarious. And of course, I'm not cutting it up. Phil Esposito had 76 goals. And
it was in 1970.
Yeah. And it was it was a totally different game. And you weren't getting
completely.
Russians over and Czechs and I remember him talking about him having never worked out in the summer. They worked at the steel mill, drank beer until they got ready at training camp was where they got ready to play hockey.
And like you said, this was probably at the time like cutting edge. Like this is what the pros do. Like this is what you should do if you're a hockey player. Actually, now we look at it, we're like, holy, like you wouldn't last one day playing hockey if that's what you did.
Got a funny story for you. Eddie Jackman. You know that name? No. Goalie?
Nope.
Like one of the old-time goalies, Rangers, I believe, was his biggest one, from Sudbury, where I'm from. And, great goalie in the NHL back in the day without helmets and stuff. Anyways, I'm having a beer in Sudbury. I'm like mid-20s. And I'm sitting beside his brother. I think his name was Rudy.
Okay.
Yeah. So Rudy was telling me the story that the Rangers wanted to sign him. And I go, so what happened? He goes, well, I was working at the mine in Sudbury. He goes, the money was too good. So I said, my brother's pretty good. So they looked at him, they signed him.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But that's the difference, right?
Oh, yeah. It's completely different. Now, if you're not even the kids, like we've talked about before, like you don't need to be all hockey 24/7, but that is how it is now. It's like if you're not 10 years old and everything is all hockey all day, then it's like you're doing something wrong kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like 2 sport athletes or like summer job and then you play during the winter time. It's like that is not a thing anymore, man. Like that is so far, and for some kids it is. Obviously, it's an exaggeration.
I think so just before we get into the meat of this thing, I think we could talk about this for a second. I think, and Drape said it, and I think most people believe that you still should play other sports.
Mm-hmm.
I firmly do, but there comes a point when you realize that you're a decent player,
right?
That there's maybe an opportunity that the folks, because you have to be so good now at an early age. Skilled anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
That you have to put a focus on your training and riding one horse.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying you should do the Wayne Gretzky and play tennis in the summer and eat hot dogs. Like that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But because I did the same thing. Like I was always a 2-sport athlete. I played baseball, and looking back on it now, I was arguably better at baseball than hockey at the time I chose to go with hockey.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I was 13 or 14 when I stopped playing baseball and just focused exclusively on hockey. And that's 14. Like that's pretty young, right? 13, 14. That's not 18, right? So I still did that as well.
I did the same.
But my point of saying that is, again, it's just now it is unheard of. If you're not at almost 100% focused on hockey, you're almost exclusively focused on hockey, and you might do a couple other things around just because people say it's good to do a couple other things. But for now, it's just so different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My son, he played, started off soccer, baseball, lacrosse. And then I've always, just played catch with him. Take him to play squash. He got into golf, and it's good to play sports.
Well, the one thing that I think is important is that you want to be an athlete first,
100%.
right? So I think when you're a kid, become an athlete, and then specialize, right? I kind of parallel it to the way that they ran school. Is they teach you like a bunch of general information, like here's some basic skills in all areas, and then as you start to get older and figure out what you care about more, then you start to specialize down a certain path. And it's the same thing with sport. Like when you're a kid, just be an athlete, right? Be an athlete. Be able to play volleyball, basketball, baseball, hockey, football, and be one of the best guys in all the sports, right? Start with that as your baseline, and then once you get older, then you can start to dial in on something specific.
Well, it goes back to the long-term athletic development plan.
Right.
That big web, and it goes per age.
Right.
Not your age, but your physical age. What skills that your body will actually adapt to and train with. So if you're 7 and you're trying to be faster, it's not going to happen.
Right.
I've seen it with my son. I just told you that how it was like a little bit of a concern of mine. I didn't find him to be fast, but I said if he gets stronger, it's going to change everything, and it did.
Well, that happened to me too. Like I was never a fast runner or skater, and then once I started to get the hormones to have some muscle development and get those actually make progress, then all of a sudden I was never like a quickness guy, but I was a power guy. Like if I got the puck in stride, I would go toe to toe trying to burn anyone outside, right? But that didn't come until I was like 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
Right? Not when I was 10, 11, 12. I didn't have that. But I want to give a shout out because you just mentioned the long-term athletic development. I wanted to give a shout out to that podcast you did with Steven Delestro. So he's a strength coach of San Jose. It's already up for people to listen to. I highly recommend that, especially for the young guys or parents that don't know what to look for in training. That podcast, man, was phenomenal.
It's awesome.
And it was very brief too. You guys only talked for a little over an hour, and he hit so many good just baseline information things about how to train at different ages, like you're saying, long-term athletic development, becoming an athlete, what specifically to do. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, definitely check that one out. That was a really good one.
It was good. Yeah, he still keeps in touch. It's great.
Oh yeah, it's awesome, man. It's awesome.
I got it was neat. Yesterday I had Dr. Noveski asked me to be a guest on his podcast coming up in April. It's going to be good.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That's another freaking good one, man. Different topic, but so man, good. A lot of good stuff.
Yeah. We're getting into this now. So we're going to be talking about what's coming up. Typically in a normal year is the OHL draft, the Ontario Hockey League draft, which would coincide basically with the Western League draft and the Quebec League draft or the Canadian Hockey League. So because of the COVID-19, there's, it's been pushed back a little bit and there's a lot of uncertainty about it. But I was just reminiscing a little bit. Well, and I think what led me up to this mostly is because one of my former players, Ryan Moore, called me the other day. What happened was with Ryan Moore is I trained him, first of all, when he was like 12, 13 is when I started training him. What a skater. Like one of the fastest guys I've ever seen. Like Proder even said that he was doing a one-on-one with him one time, and he thought, there's a junior kid, and he went, whoa, I better turn this up a few notches. And he was, good goal scorer, good player. So I coached him, and I was pretty tight with the kid. But in the last couple years, I haven't talked to him much because what happened was he was drafted. We played a little game with the OHLs because he told everybody he was going to go to college because a team wanted to draft him. He only wanted to go to a couple teams. Anyways, the Windsor Spitfires drafted him in the second round, and he ended up having a very good OHL career. And ups and downs, because it's like we talk in a lot everybody. Of these. Once you figure it out, you go, okay, this is how the game's played. Yeah. So anyways, he signed with Toronto and had a couple years in the minors, and then he just got fed up. But anyways, he called me the other day, and I was so happy to hear from him because there was a maturity to him. So what happened is he took the school package and he's using it, and he's happy, and he's scouting for Hamilton Bulldogs of the OHL, and he's coaching youth hockey. So we had a really nice conversation, and I guess one of my points to this is that, as parents, you get so hung up on the hockey thing, but he's never been happier now that he's done hockey. Now he said if he would have done, he said, if I was to give any advice, this is from Ryan, 25-year-old kid. So if I was to give any advice to any kid going in, he says, just let things happen. Try not to force the hands. Try not to play any games. Just let things happen. And he goes and you'll enjoy your career a lot more. So for parents that get all hung up on it, the athlete's going to figure it out.
Yeah, well, that's what's cool about those kinds of stories. Yeah, is it doesn't always end up as like this guy had this unbelievable career professionally, right? Yeah. Sometimes it's just, wow, this guy is just kicking life's ass now. Yeah. Or you're talking about he had kind of had a different sound to him. He had a different level of maturity talking to him when you were talking to me about it, you were telling me about it yesterday, and you were like struck by it. You're like, man, like it's talking to a different kid. Like he has a good attitude.
Like a great attitude now.
And that's one thing that is really easy to fall into with hockey is because there's so many ups and downs. Because it just takes one bad guy, one bad coach, one bad line mate, whatever, to really like put a damper on your situation or your circumstance. It's like that's a really easy thing to get spiraling into that negative mentality. And I remember seeing Ryan towards the end of his training and the way he would conduct himself. And I'm not talking bad about him. Not that he had a terrible attitude or anything. Yeah. But you can just see when guys are starting to get that,
crusty
towards hockey, right? And
it's a battle every day, man.
It is battle every day, and it's nice to see. It's nice to hear that that he's had that shift, being done hockey, right?
Done hockey, and now he's got a purpose. And he's just said, he goes, I never really thought about it much when he was 16 and he signed with the Spitfires that he had his school paid for. Everything. He goes, I don't pay for anything. And he goes, I didn't really think about it. But he goes, now when I was done, he goes, okay, he's taking finance. He goes, because there's a lot of avenues I can go with that. And he just loves it. He's learning, he sees a future without the pressure of hockey. And but he's still involved in hockey. And I was just so happy to hear that he was happy. And so Ryan was a 97 born player. So that was a 2013 OHL draft. So listen, the scientists here are so excited that I printed some papers out today with some stats.
Love it.
It's the
best.
He said, this will be the best podcast.
Yeah, I was fired up. We finished talking about it. I'm like, dude, this is going to be great.
I made him look like I'm so prepared and so detailed.
Color coordinated, stapled nice.
So I'm not firing out all kinds of stats, but I'm just going through like briefly to paint a picture of when you think your kid is going somewhere, how it plays out basically.
Well, here, let me set it up a little bit more for you. So what I think is going to happen from this, I don't really know exactly where we're going to end up talking about this, but it's going to kind of paint the picture of what does the OHL draft mean, right?
That's a good way to put it.
That's kind of like what we're going to be kind of outlining here, I think, and discussing this. So running through like some of the guys that went, and using Ryan as a quick, I don't want to put the cart before the horse,
right,
as they say.
But
Ryan was a second-round pick to the OHL, right?
And okay, second-round pick, but very, very
would have went first round if he didn't play the college game.
There was a couple other teams that were really wanted him, and he just like it was just, no, we're not coming.
Right. So if you're anyone listening to this who's going into their draft, like they would probably be like, second-round pick, I'm going to the NHL. Second round of the OHL, I'm going to be a professional hockey player, right?
100%, because second round for him was 35th overall.
Right.
35th player.
35th
chosen
in the draft, right? And the best junior development league in the world.
Yeah.
He is the 35th best.
And possibly
right?
top 20.
Possibly top 20, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a great example before we get into this. Like, what does the OHL draft mean, right? 35th overall player. He didn't play in the NHL at all.
No.
Zero.
No.
Right? So that kind of just, what does it mean? What does the OHL draft mean? You know?
What does it mean? That's actually a good perspective, or a good way to say what we're doing. Well, what does it mean? And it means nothing. We had the conversation. I was talking to a general manager the other day, and we were just talking about the upcoming draft and stuff. And I just made the point. I said, well, getting drafted first round doesn't mean that you're going to be a good player. And he said, not at all. He goes, you earn a contract, then you got to make the team, and then you got to be a player. So you can go ahead. You were going to
say. The other one of our first podcasts that we did with Kyle Pereira, he's like the OHL recruiter guy.
Yeah.
He put it a good way too. He's like, the OHL draft it's a nice feather in the cap, like it's a nice accomplishment.
Yeah.
But it starts there. You're not done now. You're not there now that you got your name called, right? So that was a good way to put it too.
Okay, so let's go back. So 2013, that's 8 years ago. 7, 8, 9, 8.
Yeah.
I'm not the
2021.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 8 years ago. So these guys have had a chance to go play junior and get 3, 4, 5 years of pro in. Some of these guys. All right. So here's before I talk about these actual players. Every year this happens. You get the group coming up. Like so, for 2 years, people are as parents and players. Well, what happens is everything in Canada, for the most part, I'm not saying every single person, but everybody in Canada is so like for players that are playing AAA and that are the higher end players, everything is geared to the OHL draft. So your whole life, like this is the biggest year, and people put so much pressure on this year that you have to perform, that it's it's big. So what happens is people actually set themselves up for disaster, for failure, for disappointment. And I've seen it year after year after year. Yep. So a quick story. There was a kid, I'm just trying to find my note here, but one of the dads came in. I want to get the numbers right, that's all. Guy came into my office. This person skated with me a little bit, not a ton over the years. So he was drafted to the, I don't want to say the team. I don't want to say the name. So his dad was telling me how he's going to be like a top pick. So you start telling your kid you're going to be a top pick, like you're really good, you score goals, you're awesome, and you throw that in, up his ass all the time. The kid thinks he's going to be a top pick.
Right.
He's not facing reality. So I saw a different version of a player when I saw him. I saw a kid that had some skill, that could score some goals, that didn't know how to play hockey at all, that had a terrible attitude. Terrible attitude, arrogant, and dad told him how great he was. 8th round. So that's 8th player pick chosen in the draft. So the dad stopped in and asked, some questions and stuff. I said, hey, congratulations on your son and all that stuff. He goes, yeah, he was, he's their second pick. I said, what? I said, he goes, yeah, no, he went in the round, but they told us he's his second pick. I said, what? Because I was confused.
Yeah, what are you talking about, man?
He goes, well, they said like he's like a second round pick.
He's like a second round pick.
So the dad wants to believe that. So even though he was drafted, the honesty of the business, after 20 teams got to choose times, grabbed him in the 10th round, 8th, and the dad still wants to say that he was a second round pick. Like, no, he's better than what he was.
Yeah.
But the 20 teams just told you where they think they are. Because if he was a second round pick, he went in the second round.
Yeah.
Maybe third if they could grab someone better. But he's a 10th round pick.
Right.
So the real conversation is, well, first of all, as you're going through the process, is like we always talk about, is don't overestimate how good you are.
Right.
And don't underestimate how good everybody else is. Like, you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, this guy was like dead serious, looked me in the eye, and yeah. He'll be signing. And so this kid's got to go from there, thinking he's going to go be a high pick, get drafted in the 10th round. Then his dad's telling him that he's still a second round pick. Like, really, you're better than everybody, so you're going to make the team anyway. So there was no reality check, no honesty.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think what you're kind of starting to circle on is it's starting with the parents, right? And the issue, this is just such a common theme, man. Like the amount, and we're seeing it right now happen in real time with Charlie's age group, because it's their draft year this year, right? And the amount of stock that parents are putting in this year is alarming, because like we're saying here, it doesn't mean it's a nice accomplishment. It is. It's
awesome. That's what you work for.
Yeah,
short term.
Yeah. When you're a kid, like that is a big deal for you. Like you get your name called in the draft, that's a big deal. Yeah. But the setup from the parents is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like and I remember a quick story for me. One of my best buddies, I didn't get drafted, and I remember the draft day my year, which would have been, oh boy, I don't know, 2009 maybe.
1840.
Anyways. So I was at his house for the draft because he was supposed to get drafted, and you know how they have all these rankings that come out, and he was ranked. I could be wrong. I could be remembering wrong, but it was like 4 to 6 or something, right? Yeah. And it's like, there's no way you're 4 to 6. I remember like thinking this at the time. You're not 4 to 6, right? And because he was ranked like that from these stupid ranking things, and you buy the press and you think that
TP?
No.
Okay.
So other guy. Athlete, but because there's this build up to it. Well, then on draft day, we're watching the names get called. 4 comes, nothing. 5 comes, nothing. 6 comes, nothing. 8 comes, nothing. 10 comes, nothing. Right? He ended up going super late in the draft, and I was like, by round 8, now he didn't care. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, but I didn't even get drafted, dude. Like, you still got drafted. Like, that's awesome, man. Yeah. Like, you got your name. You get a chance. You get the door is now open, right? Yeah. Even though you're late and people are probably thinking nothing of what you're going to do because you're a late pick and whatever, you get an automatic year or 2 chance with a team, right? But it didn't matter now. It didn't matter because round 4 to 6 came and went, and he was like, well, now who cares? Yeah. So it was amazing to watch. And that is a lot to do with the way it's talked about from the parents, because I remember my dad, the way that he did such a great job, man, because he probably knew I wasn't getting drafted. Yeah. And I remember to me, he was always saying like, yeah, but you know what? It's not the end. You keep going. And which is weird because he didn't play. Like, there was no reason for him to know that. And he just had that common sense to be like, you're going to be, I was 15 my draft year, right? He's like, you're going to be 15. Like, how can that possibly be the end of the road? It can't be.
No, it can't be.
Right?
No.
And so he had enough brains to make sure that was the message I was getting, and it could have just been out of sympathy for me because he knew I wasn't getting drafted.
Yeah, but that's being a good dad.
Yeah, just being a good dad. But that's the issue. I know I'm getting long here, but that's the issue with the parents, like the way they're setting it up. You know.
Yeah. So before I go into the list, because you made me think about. I mean, it probably would have come out anyways. Yeah. But here's the thing. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it for anytime you guys listen to me. I'm going to say the same thing. So here's what's happening. We've got like on Charlie's, well, in this age, there's going to be a lot of disappointed people. Now, I've got friends that are going to listen to this, and they're going to say, were you talking about me? And I'm going to say, yeah. Yep, I'm talking about you. You're going to be disappointed because you're not Aaron Ekblad. You're not going to go first overall. You're not going to go first overall in the NHL. So you right automatically you're
seriously
you're disappointed.
You could have done better. Yeah.
Aaron's the only one that I personally know that wasn't disappointed. Yeah. He went first. So that's after that you're going to be disappointed. Number 2.
Hang on, sorry. Before number 2, think about if he would have went second overall. Disappointed. Just to be clear.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're disappointed because you're going to say I think I'm better than him.
Yep.
Or something. So, but here's the thing. As we go up, because I've seen this, oh man, watching my son go through this, it was like, wow, this is the reality of it, because I used to see it from the outside, like just as a hockey guy. But watching my son going through this, it was like, wow. People on my team know what I do. They know who I train. They see what, like they can watch and they see me with certain people like, oh wow, that's pretty cool.
Oh, I just know where you're going. It's so funny.
So how can you come up and say that, yeah, my son's ranked here at 12 or 13? Okay, so first of all, that's not a true ranking. There's no such thing. What happens is there's all these people that blow smoke up your ass. Everyone's trying to make a buck in hockey. That's number one. So if you haven't been around the game, it might sound good, and it could be tempting, but when someone is if there's any money involved or potential money involved, you have to raise your eyebrows and say, okay, what do they actually want? So if there's a list out there that says you're ranked here, it's false. Mm-hmm. It's not a real list. So you can make yourself feel real good and say, oh, I got this article and this bullshit thing. Yeah. If it makes you feel good, cool, but you're not being honest. It's not real. Yep. It's not real. Yep. When an agent that doesn't have any players comes up to you and says, yeah, I'd like to represent you. You're really good. You're really good. You're really good. You're really good. You're the best. You're the best. You're going to go here. You're going to, I think you're the best thing in the world. Your eyebrows should raise because you should have a really good idea if your kid is the best. If you're looking for an agent and someone takes you, it's probably it's just bullshit. You don't need it. But people that are always telling you how great you are and all that stuff is like, they're not helping you. Mm-hmm. So for example, the person that I have in Charlie's corner, he never tells him he's good. He's never going to promote him. He's not once. He just tells him work harder every time. And he doesn't even talk to him that much, but like he's what we call an advisor. And when he talks to him, he goes, okay, so you did that good. Oh, that's pretty cool. He goes, did you get up in the morning and do your push-ups, sit-ups, squats? No. Well, you need to do that or else you're not going to make the NHL. That's what I want. The honesty.
Yeah, it's honest.
Yeah. And people will tell you everything you want to hear because like, just look, follow the money, follow the thing. And I told you recently, my brother-in-law called me and a couple people showed me an article that Charlie was in. And Charlie goes, I know, Dad, but I just wanted to show you. He goes, is it legit? I go, it's not legit. They wrote a really nice story on you, but but see, subscribe. It does nothing.
It doesn't matter.
No, but some girl in New York writing a press thing about you she knows nothing about hockey. Right. What she get a couple people to say she's trying to sell an article. Right. So it means nothing. So it means absolutely nothing. So you have to be honest with yourself and just do the work.
Yep.
So that's where people get disappointed when a mom and dad and the people around you are telling you how great you are and that you are going here. All of a sudden the kid thinks like, okay, like it's false confidence. You think that you're going in the third round and I'm not. This isn't even that hard.
Yeah. Well, in defense of the parents too, they a lot of times, like we've talked about many times before, they don't actually know any better, and it is your whole world at the time, right? Like. Think about when you got a kid that's playing AAA and you're going out of town every other week and you have games every week and they have practice 3 times a week for 8 months of the year. It's like that's a lot of your life, right? Yep. Like you have to make a lot of decisions to cater to that thing that your kid is doing, right? So I can understand it seeming like this is the everything and anything and it's the most important because for you it actually is. Like you have it shouldn't be, but for you it can seem like it is because you're making all these decisions and spending all this money and all whatever, right? So I can sympathize a little bit with that, it consuming your life, but you have to be able to take a step back and realize when you're getting caught up in it too much and you're putting too much weight into what's going on because I'm with you every day for the whole day and you're talking to these like actual people in the industry every day, basically. Yep. And they don't even know who these kids are. No. Like some of these kids that are saying who they're really good. It's like some of these GMs, some of these scouts, like I hear these conversations you have. They don't even know who these kids are.
Not a clue.
Not a clue, right? Because it's not their world. Their world is actually their OHL team and the actual league and the actual games. Yeah. It's not the 15-round draft that happens once a year and really only 3 of those kids might ever actually play.
Ever.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, if you think they care, they don't care. Yeah. They don't care. They want to get the best players that they can get, right? And they're going to look to find them. Yeah. But they're not calling Andy Paquette every day asking about every single kid on the Windsor Spitfires. They don't know almost all of these kids. They don't even know who they are.
They don't know how
right?
a clue.
And it's the same with every other AAA team in all of Ontario. They barely know any of these kids, right? So it's just you have to be able to separate yourself back for the sake of your kids so that you're not setting them up to be more crushed than is necessary, because it's already going to be disappointing whether or not you're someone who puts a lot of weight into the draft or not. It's going to be disappointing, right? You can't get around that. But it doesn't need to be like devastating and life crushing.
No, it's
like
conversations all the time.
Yeah, like it can be.
With Charlie, you know, like he's a pretty good player, and I'm. See, I feel crazy too. I do. I feel crazy because I think, what if I'm doing this the wrong way? But I know I'm not. Mm-hmm. I know I'm not. But he, you know, we got. He should be a fairly high pick, but it's like every day he asks me questions and stuff, and I go, listen, I don't know the answer. You think you're around here? I think you're my favorite hockey player, and I mean it. Since I'm not saying that because he's my son. He's my favorite hockey player. I love watching him play, and if I could take him, like, I want him on my team. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that's other people's opinion. So, you know, I prepare him like, you might not go, or you probably won't go. If you think that you're the 30th best player in Ontario, plan on 50. Mm-hmm. Plan on 100. Yeah. Okay, it doesn't matter. Just plan on being good when you get there, because honestly, you'll be crushed if it's not what you think you are. It's you know, we talk about this all the time. He brings it up, and I try to bring him down, and I hope I'm doing a good enough job, because the last thing I would want is when the draft comes that he sits there and I was blowing smoke up his ass, and now I got to deal with that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and the other thing too is, even someone like you, who is very connected and does have these conversations on a pretty consistent basis, you don't know.
I have no idea.
And that's the other,
no one tells me.
I know, and that's the other funny thing too, is like, it's kind of a side note. Like, people call you expecting you to know all the ins and outs of what's going on, and it's like, you don't know. You don't know. And not only do you not know, the GMs and scouts and all of that, they don't even know. All they know is what they're looking for their one team.
Yes.
But there's 30 teams.
Yes. Or 20 in the OHL.
Or sorry, 20 teams in the OHL, right? So it's like, those guys don't even know. No. They know a couple things about what their team is looking for. Yeah. But how do they know where to pick your kid? They have no idea. They're like, oh, we would take him at this part, but there's 19 other teams that get to pick too. Yeah. So I don't know where your kid's going to go. How would you know?
Yeah, and what if this kid that they never thought was going to be available is now available? So now
changes everything.
Take that
all
kid,
the math
he's
changes.
The best player. I love that kid.
Yeah.
Right? So everything changes, and you don't know.
Yeah. So you just have to be able to take that step back.
Dude, I've seen this 100 times. Like I've talked. Yeah. Hey, Andy, we're going to take your kid if he's around in the second round. Not my kid. Like one of your players. We're taking him in the second round if he's around. Yeah. And it comes, and they tell the people they had a conversation. And the second round comes, and they didn't choose him.
That's a great point.
I've seen it 100 times. So do not think you know where you're going.
Yeah.
You know,
100%. Well, I want to stick that for one more second. Okay. So you have a kid that, we're gonna take you around this spot. This is when we're gonna take you. This is when we're gonna take you. But then, like you said, another kid that's better ends up being available or different that they didn't think was gonna be there. No, okay. Well, now we can't take you to the 4th round because whatever. And then there's your 2 rounds of disappointment waiting. Right.
Well, there's one. I think I told you the team. The general manager was talking about my son, and they said, "Hey, he was talking to Dalton about my son, and he said, yeah, we think he's going to be in around this area, and we really like him, but we don't. That's not the type of player we're looking for that pick.
For that pick.
So if we can't see him being here, but if he's there, then we're going to go. So we're talking like much later. So that's a perfect example of that. Like, yeah, of course they would like him, but there's other players. That's not the type of player that they need. Right. They probably want someone better looking. Yeah. with not a crazy ass dad that thinks he knows everything about hockey with a microphone.
Well done.
So, anyways. We're kind of gonna backtrack here. I want to go into that 2013 draft real quick. Maybe not real quick, but so I'm going to do a trick here. Little trick. Where do you think... I'm going to go Mitch Marner, Jordan Greenway, NHL players, Travis Konechny, Dylan Strome, and Mitchell Stevens. Who do you think went first over? You would know the answer probably, but who do you think went first overall?
I know Travis went first overall.
Okay, so Travis Konechny went first overall.
He's good.
And he's really good. In fact, because I coached against a lot of these guys, and he was a gamer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was a gamer, man. He was a small guy. So as his draft, he was 5'9" and a quarter. He made sure he got the quarter.
Yeah.
Because it was important then. 162 pounds. So what they're looking at is the potential, but he's a gamer. Okay? Second overall was Dylan Strome. So these guys both play in the NHL. Dylan was 6'2", 170 in his OHL draft year. Fourth overall is a guy that I did some training with. His name was Sean Day. Sean Day was, so in that year, he was a year younger than everybody, and he had exceptional status. Aaron Ekblad, John Tavares, Connor McDavid all had, what's the word? Exceptional status.
Yeah.
So Sean Day was supposed to be the next
one of
great
those guys, yeah.
Next guy, like for sure, bona fide superstar. Shane Wright's in the newest one. Sean Day got drafted in the 4th or 5th round of the Rangers and never played one game in the NHL and had a very, and what a skater. Like there's all this stuff there, but there was, just never played in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
4th overall. But this was a can't miss. This guy's going to be a star.
Yeah, exceptional status.
Yeah, exceptional status. This is a for sure NHL 2 years from now, 3 years from now, he's going to be making the big bucks. So we go through, Lawson Kraus played in Florida, Arizona. Okay, there's it. 6th overall, Hayden Mccool played with the Spits at Niagara University.
Yeah.
6th, so you're looking around, like, look at this, University. Hayden Mccool. I know the kid. 6th overall. So in all the people in the world, he was a big boy, right? 6'2", 6'3", tough. And he gets drafted 6th over. That means you are so good. Like you're looking at the midgets and you go that 6th. Like there's no one better than this.
So
kid.
you're right. So pause at number 6 for a second. Okay. So because that's the first guy that nothing to scoff at. Like played 4 years OHL probably, then went to university, got a school paid for. Like that's great. Yeah. Okay. Now put yourself in that position. If you're mom and dad and you're a kid in your draft year, what that would mean to you to go 6th overall and what you would think about going 6th overall.
Dollar signs.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the NHL.
I'm making the NHL.
100%.
That is exactly what you're going to think, right? So everyone who's hearing that, the 6th overall pick, didn't play a game of pro, is now going to university, finishing, getting on with his life, which is there's no problem with that at all.
We're talking just straight up hockey.
Think about from a hockey perspective what that would mean for you and your kid, or if you are the player, what that would mean for you going 6th overall in the draft, the OHL draft. How unbelievable that would be.
Yeah.
Okay. Press the fast forward button for 7 years, 8 years, and this guy didn't play one game of pro. So there's some perspective.
I don't know if he was drafted. I'm not sure. I think he was late.
Even if he did play a couple games of pro, right?
He didn't.
Yeah, but even if he would have, he's still back in university, getting on with his life now, right?
Yeah.
So there's some perspective for you.
3rd overall, I don't know. I just don't know. Matthew Spencer went 3rd overall to Peterborough. Don't know if he.
I don't know.
I don't know. And he could be playing. There's guys like Dalton Prout. A lot of people don't know who he is if they weren't he wasn't my friend. Yeah. Mitchell Stevens playing in Tampa Bay, 8th overall. So these other first rounders, you've never heard of them. Like unless you're like a junior super fan, you've never heard of them. And then it goes to 16th overall, Jordan Greenway, plays for Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. So we got we got 10 picks between there where nobody knows who these people are.
No one, not a clue.
Not a clue.
And then we go down a couple to the last pick of the first round, and you get Mitchell Marner at 5'7.5", 130 pounds. Yeah. Played against him. He was a good, shifty little guy, but he went all the way to 19. So if you did that draft over, would he be 19th or would he be 1st, 2nd, 3rd?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah, easy top 3.
Like unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that's the first round. And real quickly, second round. You've never heard of these guys except for, you haven't heard of these guys. Second round, 24th overall, London Knights, Zach Werenski. 2nd or 3rd overall, 4th overall in the NHL. Like a superstar. He's like same quality as Aaron Ekblad. Then we go down, never heard of him, like you have never heard of him. Mm-hmm. Keep going down. Oh, here's another one. Luke Kerwin, So remember he trained with me?
Yeah.
Big boy. He was at the time 6'2", 220, big, strong guy. Played at the U.S. program a little bit. Didn't even finish the OHL.
Yeah.
Then there was one of our guys, homegrown Noah Bushnell, 33rd overall in the second round. Didn't finish his junior career.
Yep.
Good kid. Then, Ryan at 35. Ryan Moore, my guy. Good career, but, no one would ever heard of him if it wasn't for me bringing it up right now. Second round, you never heard of anybody else. So what do we got? 6 guys now?
So, yeah, we're at like 6, maybe 7 in the first 2 rounds. So out of the 40 picks, we got 6 guys that played some pro or any like kind of note in terms of hockey.
Still playing.
Yeah, in terms of hockey that have had like something noteworthy happen. That's the full top 40. Like these would be at the
that's the top 40.
So just to reiterate again, like think about that. These are the top 40 players in your draft. What that would mean to you to be in the top 40 picks, right? And out of those 40, there's 6 that have had something noteworthy go on, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Perspective, people.
So I'm in the third round.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I have a name only because, but I just want to go through it. So the first, I'm not saying this, I'm being a smart ass here, but all Jean-Guy rubber boots here.
Yeah.
Nobody that you would ever hear of.
Right.
One of my guys, Doug Blaisdell, went to Kitchener in the third round. Good player, but really good defenseman. Early bloomer.
Yeah.
Right. So we go to the fourth round. And at 64, Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah.
Fourth round. Now, there's a little bit of you also have to keep in mind, which can go both ways. In the OHL, the US kids have a little bit of they can play a little bit of a game. There's a gamble there. So if I'm the Windsor Spitfires, I'm going to I like Matthew Tkachuk, and I've got the 6th pick. I take a chance because they could say, well, no, we're going to go to Boston College instead. Mm-hmm. And if you pick them, there's a chance that they don't come. So sometimes that happens.
Yep.
But also, the reverse, you think that your first round pick, but they take this guy in the fourth round, and he's better than you, and you don't get to play.
Yep.
So like, the draft means not a heck of a lot.
There's that example.
It opens the door. So anyways, fourth round, nothing.
So and just pausing on Tkachuk again for a second. So he's playing. Now, he's in the NHL now playing.
Yeah.
And think about all of the players that got drafted before him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All of those guys that, what are we at? Maybe 7 names so far?
Let's just say 10.
10 names?
Yeah.
That they played like a notable amount of hockey after OHL, right? Yeah. It's like, that's crazy. 4th round pick, man. 4th round pick. It's like
100%.
And he's one of the top right now that we're at like for playing, you know?
Now, so as I went through the draft, there's some guys that played, got a cup of coffee. Maybe there's a couple guys in there that actually made, and I just didn't go through the.
Yeah, we're talking about
like
the noteworthy, big name guys.
Yeah, but there's also some guys in there that didn't get drafted at all, who made the NHL, like Anthony Cirelli's. I don't know if he's that year. I don't think he's close. But there's guys like that made it, and there's guys in there that have made it or are going to make it, but they're just. I'm just talking the ones that you would know. So we go to the 15th round, the last round of the OHL draft. So you're at 286, 287, 288, and we start going down. So in the 15th round, we just talked about him on our podcast the other day, was Sam Militek, went to London. He's in Pittsburgh's organization. 15th round, 295th player chosen.
15th round. Almost missed it.
Yeah, there's just, okay, so you're getting down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 picks left in the draft. Let's take, I like this kid, Sam Militek.
Yeah,
turns out to be a pro.
Yeah.
And a really good junior.
Yeah.
And then the very last pick of the draft, 299th, Oshawa Generals picked Jalen Smerek. And I coached against him. Last pick. You could just draft your son if you want.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And he ended up playing in the OHL as a pretty good defenseman in Oshawa and Flint, and then signed with the Arizona Coyotes. 15th round. When guys get drafted in the 15th round, they say, at least I thought I was a pretty good player. Yeah. It's amazing. Now, just going through that again, so we get to that 299th pick, 300 picks. There was something that went on, there wasn't an extra pick. But anyways, 300 players. So if I was to tell every kid on my son's team that you are rated in the top 300, you're the 250th. You're probably the top 200 to 300 players in Ontario. They probably think they're pretty good.
Yep.
Right.
And really, you should.
Yeah.
Top 300 players in the province.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, but that doesn't get you drafted necessarily.
Nope. Doesn't.
Because you still got guys from the States, and then you have the European draft, and now you got to beat out older guys, and it's really, really hard is my point.
Oh, yeah. Well, out of those 300, the big names, Marner, and for me at least, Marner, Tkachuk, Strome, Konechny. Those are the four of the 300 picks. So obviously we skipped through a lot. There's guys that have played and they played pro and all of this, right? But there's four names.
Greenway's good.
Greenway, but for me personally, right? And you're way more on top of who's good and whatever than I am. But for me, there's four big names coming out of that draft. If we want to be objective, even if there's 8, even if there's 10, right?
Yeah.
So out of the 300 that went, this is the biggest year of your whole life if you're going into the OHL draft, right? All the parents listening right now, how important this is. Okay, again, press fast forward 7-8 years, and there was 10 names where they actually played substantial minutes in the NHL where everyone knows who they are.
Yeah.
10.
That's
it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like.
Oh, I know what you mean.
So it's like, what is that? Is that 3%? Like.
I'm not good at math.
Yeah.
But
It's like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah.
I don't like it's something that people really need to pay attention to. The parents, especially, going back to that. It's like you need to understand what this can mean.
Yeah.
Right. What this means for your kid playing.
Yeah.
Right. What this process actually means for them. Right. And it's not a whole lot. It could be something. Right. And like we said, it's a nice accomplishment. You get drafted, whatever. But it's not the end all be all. Not even close. Because like you mentioned, there's countless other guys that didn't get drafted. They came in late. They went to college instead. They did something else. They took some other path. We talk about that a lot too. There's not one path, and they made it over the number 6 kid, the 6th overall pick in the draft that year.
Yeah. So some of those names, I know them all.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, I want to be really clear. Every one of those guys that have made it, like, I'm going to be really clear. And every one of those guys, when they played minor hockey, you knew they were good.
There was no question.
There was no question.
Yeah.
No question.
Yep.
They were excellent hockey players. Like, they won games for their team. They carried the team on their back, more or less. They did something special. They were hockey players. So that's number one. Number two is they put in a ton of work. I just know. They just put in a ton of work. So that's they identified themselves. So, like, they went high and all that kind of stuff because they were number one, they were good. But and then they worked after that. But there's other kids that make it. So what do I want to say now? I want to say, well, how do we approach it as a player, as a parent? Well, number one, I think I had a conversation with one of my kids, not my flesh and blood, but one of my kids, and I said, "Hey, so what team would you like to go to?" And what he goes, "Well, I never really thought of it." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, I never really thought of it." I said, "Well, do you want to go to college instead?" He goes, "Oh, I never really thought about that either." So I'm like, "Okay, so you're just playing hockey, which is totally fine." But I think he wants to have something out of it, but I don't think he put this is what I want really bad. So he's playing hockey. So I thought that was interesting. But anyways, my point was, I think having the goal of getting drafted as high as you possibly can, I think it's a great goal. Yep. I do. I think it's great. And I think it's because the more committed you are to working towards that goal, I think the more that you're going to keep your whole life in line and you're going to dedicate yourself, which I think is really, really important to your craft. It's going to keep you out of the Friday night dances. It's going to keep you away from the jackasses at school, most likely, if you care. And it's a really good goal. And as important or more important is that if you want to be a hockey player, that you should have a goal. So getting drafted is good, but don't put everything in there because, as you can see in the list, the scouts and the teams also make a lot of mistakes.
Yep.
Sean Day was a can't miss, and that
that's a great point too.
Yeah. No, they're going to make a lot of mistakes, and I was talking to Mark Hunter the other day. He goes, "Yeah, we make mistakes all the time."
Yep.
Because we don't know. We're just taking their best stab at it. But as you get so if you get drafted, awesome. Like, it is awesome. Whether it's first, someone said, "You know what, we like you enough to put our logo on you." Like, or to say that we're going to invest something in you. It might be just a training camp, but we're going to invest something in you. You're going to get a hat. And that's something you can see that some people will never get. But now the work starts.
Right.
And whether you're first or last pick in the draft, it does not matter. Now the work starts. Now you have to earn the team saying, we like you enough that we want to offer you the package, the OHL package with some school and all that kind of stuff, and a chance to earn a spot.
Right.
And the work comes in. If you did not get drafted, it's okay. And I know that is easy for us to say when you're not living it every day. That's a little tougher to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, the work starts. I think it's a great short-term goal to get drafted, but it's not the end-all, be-all goal. Because at the end of the day, so I'll let you go in 1 second. At the end of the day, where you are at 15 and 16 and 17 has no bearing on where you are at 19. You have to, that gap, like, so when someone does get drafted in the OHL, and I told this to my son, if you're fortunate enough, I shouldn't say fortunate, if you've worked hard enough and you're talented enough and people have recognized you enough and you happen to go early enough in the draft where you have an opportunity to play in the OHL next year, and he's very, very well aware of this, you are not getting a ton of ice time. It's going to be pain and suffering the first year or two, and you have to be mentally tough enough and strong enough and emotionally tough enough to say, okay, it's not about me at 16 or 17. It's me at 19 and 20. So you have to take those years, and hopefully you get a great coach like, a Dale Hunter, or, someone that's been experienced in that is going to teach you how to become a pro, because that's the ultimate goal. So those years are about developing into being a pro, not getting I played in the OHL or I signed with an OHL team. You want to move on. So that would be for the kid that makes it. Now I'm going to let you interject.
Yeah, I want to circle back on the 2 points you started with there. So you said the team, well, two things. The first one, less significant. The teams make mistakes, and you can see we ran through all those names, right? Yeah. How many mistakes?
Yep.
Mistakes were made by those teams. Yep. They didn't pick, all their 15 picks didn't turn out to be the best choices. Right. And that's what's going to happen.
Or they were, and they just don't make the NHL.
Yeah, or they were the best choice at the time, and then just something fell apart, didn't work out, right? Because that's what happens. So that's one thing. And then the second thing, I want to make sure this is very clear. When we're saying that the OHL draft means nothing, it means nothing in terms of what you're going to do in your hockey career. It's not a good marker for whether or not you're going to be successful as a hockey player. And that's what we mean when we're saying, what we're not saying, which you pointed out, is it's you shouldn't have that as a goal. Like, that's a great goal for all the reasons you said, right? That is a great goal to have. You want to get as drafted as high as you can for a bunch of reasons that you just pointed out. We're not saying that for that reason. We're saying it means nothing because it's not a good marker for your hockey career and how successful you're going to be. And then the other 2 points that you kind of touched on without saying it is like that bit of ego, not even a bit, a lot of ego that comes with the draft and what that means as a parent, as a player, and all of that. Like, trying to steer clear of that, because that's a tough spot. Because it is, like you're saying, it's about being a player when you're 18, 19, when it's time to become a professional. Like, the OHL is not the end of the road. Like, the fact that you get a couple games in the OHL, or you played your 4 years in the OHL, nobody cares about that. After the draft is over,
no one cares.
Literally nobody cares.
No,
it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to your friend group. It's irrelevant to the other parents. It's irrelevant to other coaches, to other organizations. It's irrelevant to everyone. Nobody cares anymore. No. Right? For that day, it matters for the moments of the draft. And then after that, it doesn't matter. Now you're starting, right? Yeah. If the end goal is the OHL, then whether you're acknowledging it or not, if you're just like, got to get to the OHL, and like you said, some of these kids not thinking past that, then that's where you could get cut out at the knees when you get hit with those disappointments, right? So I just want to point those things out again. Yeah,
you mentioned ego, and I've got that in my notes. Think about the ego. I think I'm talking as a dad right now. So if my son, I've really actually asked this question a lot. I think I've probably said it to you and Dalton. I try not to make his life my life, if that makes any sense. And his goals are my goals. I just want to help him. And I mean, of course, it will reflect good on my business and what it will reflect good on me. Well or good?
Reflect well?
It will reflect well on me. I try to use proper English as best as I can, because we get in that dressing room and we start going swears. And I try to do my best. Yeah. But it reflects well on me if my son was to go first overall and get first overall in the NHL and play in the NHL for 20 years. And I could sit there and say, well, yeah, I did it. I would never do that. But yeah, like look at the program, man. So it would reflect well that way. But as a dad, I really try to like I let other people in, like Dalton and you know, people in to talk to him because like I'm his dad.
Oh, yeah.
But him getting drafted, and I'm being so sincere about this, if he got drafted first overall, which he's not, if he gets drafted first overall, it does not make me a better person. I will not go out there and say, I mean it. My son was, he's so good. It changes nothing in my life. It's not ego-driven whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But that's what I think the parents, like, they talk about their kids, and it's like if they get drafted, their ego is fed.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like getting a tattoo. You know, we asked this question one day. If you get a tattoo, why? If you got a tattoo, guys, it's okay. Yeah. I'm just saying it for myself. Like, my perspective of that is like, someone gets a tattoo, I go, who is it for? Really, who's it for? Is it for you? Does that the mum?
Yeah.
Mum or the the ship on your arm? Like, that's old school.
Yeah.
Is that for you? Like, does it mean that much, or is it for someone else?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Is it for the look?
Is it for the look? Are you trying to
the reputation?
Yeah. So, anyways, the ego is if you remove your ego and just let your kid be who he is and figure things out, that's the game changer. Mm-hmm. Like, as far as like having him go through, because the parents are crushed. The kids figure it out. Oh. The parents, I mean, I've got a couple that say, hockey sucks, blah, blah, blah. It's not fair. Like, I got that in my notes. So it's not fair. Bunch of bullshit. It's not bullshit. Yeah. It's not. You looked at your son with rose-colored glasses. Yeah. It's not what you thought he was going to be. Mm-hmm. Well, they could have taken him instead of someone else. Yeah, they could have. Yeah. But the 20 teams went 15 rounds and they didn't choose him, or they chose him at a certain point. They thought these guys were better. Like, it's as fair as it can be. Yeah. Because if you're that good, like the politics in hockey, like we talk about this all the time, I always say there's no politics in hockey. And people go, yeah, but I go, okay, let's say there is a little bit of politics in hockey, but you know who it doesn't apply to is the best player. Yep. It just doesn't apply. If you're the best player, you get to play, you get drafted, you get to move on. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all. There is no politics with that. Just like any other company. Yeah.
Well, the politics thing is so funny. That one strikes home for me. I remember that when I was a kid, like the parents that think, oh man, like there's this guy's trying to screw me this way and that way, and it's not fair and all this stuff. Yeah. There couldn't be a more objective measure of where your kids are at right now than that draft, right? In a lot of ways. In some ways, no, but in some ways, yes, right? So because if you think about what the process is for them to select your kid. Like I was saying, and maybe people didn't know this before hearing us talk about it. True. These GMs and scouts, they don't know the kids. They don't care. They're not researching these kids day in and day out, know everything about every kid the way you do. Yeah. And the way that you're paying attention, right? So they're solely basing what they know on their game performance and the buzz they're creating on the ice. Yeah. They don't have any other measure. And some
background checks to make sure he hasn't robbed banks and he's not a serial killer.
Exactly. And stuff. But they don't know every kid on every team inside a serial killer.
Probably not a serial killer.
assuming he's not a serial killer, right?
Yeah.
But that's the extent of their knowledge about, like, so where are the politics?
There's none. Now, okay. Now I have seen.
Right. Of course.
Okay. So this is a beautiful thing. Like, I've seen dads beg to be a scout.
No.
Just at the time.
Oh yeah.
That their son's getting drafted. Yeah. And coach the team just at that time.
Or
and they try to make
buy the team.
Rich guy buy the team, and then they try to pull all the strings. But I mean, and I've seen that happen where the kid's nephew or someone that's involved in a team takes their kid in whatever round it is, and it makes everyone feel good. But again, that's the ego. Does that really make you feel good that you did, like, for example, if you did become the scout or you became owner of the team and stuff, and then your kid got drafted in the 12th round? Mm-hmm. If that makes you feel good? I mean, I guess you got different issues than I do.
Well, and I don't want to because that does. You're right. That does happen. But like, let's play
not often.
But let's play percentage here, right? Yeah, like, what amount of that is occurring in the draft? Even if there's 10% of that, right? Yeah. Which there's not. But even if there was that much,
does that make 30 kids?
What's that?
That would make 30 kids.
What do you mean?
10% of 300, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Not bad.
But dude. Even if there was, though,
right,
which is not, but even if there was, that's not a lot.
No.
So the vast majority of what happens in the draft is just an objective measure of who they think are the best kids, right? Yeah. And it could be that your kid is really better and had a really bad Marlies tournament or didn't play well in the playoffs and
doubt crept in.
Yeah, right. And maybe that accounts for some of it as well, but it still doesn't matter. The vast majority of it is just who's the best right now. Right? That is what it is. Yeah. Almost entirely.
Who's the best right now and what do I see him in 3 years?
Yeah, that's what best right now. Right, exactly. Yeah. Who's the best choice right now for reason X, Y, Z? Right. Yeah. So that's what it's about. So you want to talk about like the politics in hockey and how you're getting screwed and how not fair it is and all this. And it's like, just take a step back, man. Like take a look at what's happening. Just step out of your little world of AAA zone or Waterloo Regional AAA hockey or whatever it is that you're consumed by at the moment, and just like actually think about what is going on. The adults that are picking your kids, like they have other things that are way more important than researching every little detail. They're not trying to screw you. You know what I mean?
There's one player I'm just thinking about right now. Could be it could actually be a very high pick, but I doubt will be. And over the last couple of years, I've said, okay, like your D zone. If you do this, I'm going to be real specific here. So like if he would just pounce on the loose pucks and loose bodies a little bit more, and I've told him countless of times, and he shakes his head, and never, ever, ever does it. Mm-hmm. So Dad will never see that. Dad just does not see that. Yep. Says I see this, and this, which is good about him, and that's all that matters. Yep. So that's what I mean. It's going to be it'll be disappointing.
Yeah, it's gonna be disappointing for sure.
So what? I wrote down, like, if you don't get drafted, is there even a silver lining in this? And absolutely there is. Absolutely. And I think that you want to see if you have the stick-to-itiveness now, because it really, I mean, it maybe gives you a couple odds, but it doesn't really. So what happens? You're 16 years old. Some of them, like my son's going to be 15 when the draft comes around. So he's just a little boy. Mm-hmm. So you've got, if you want to play in the NHL or even the OHL, you can I've seen guys like come in at 18, 19 and play an overage year and have 3 excellent years and be pros. So what do you do for the next couple of years? It goes, well, first of all, you got to understand, do you love the game? Do you love hockey? If you love hockey, you're going to keep going. And you play for passion. And that's the one thing I always tell kids is that if you play hockey because you love hockey, it'll show and you'll excel at whatever level you are. So let's just say you have to play major midget again another year. Your parents still have to drive you around. You still got to pay for your hockey and stuff like that. That's not bad. Right? So face the adversity. Like, okay, I didn't get drafted. And be honest with yourself. Now it's time to have an honesty check. Like, okay, if I what's honest? Well, okay, if I look at the years that I just went through, was I the best guy on the team? Like, was I really what I thought I was? And be really honest. Maybe you are. But now you got to ask, well, why wouldn't someone like me? Like, what is it? Is it my body language on the ice? Do I come across like an asshole? Is it my skating? Is it a skill? Is it something that I don't see? Maybe I should go ask somebody like that could give me some honest feedback. And then when you get the honest feedback, work at it. Like, work your craft. Be honest with yourself. Can you stick to it? Can you stick to it? Like, you're still college. There's still a college career. You're still 6, 7, 8 years of hockey left if you choose to work hard. And if it was, let's just say, if it was, you got to work on your skating. That was an issue that we talk about with my son. I will be the first one to say that he wasn't the fastest guy on the ice all the time. And we knew that might be an issue. Maybe, possibly. Okay, so if that's your issue, if this came back to you, you're just not fast enough. Okay, or your turns are shit or something. Do you have the stick-to-itiveness enough? What's the word?
Stick-to-itiveness?
Stick-to-itiveness to say, okay, my game's pretty good, but that skill bucket of skating or whatever it is, I'm going to start off with 1 year. I'm going to take 1 year, and everything that I can possibly do, I'm going to make myself a better skater. That means it might mean I have to go to a gym and, really spend time on the strength of my legs. I might have to do hills 3 times a week. I might have to do some stretching. I might have to do some mobility. I might have to go and find ice and do edge work and just work on the technique of it. If I do that for a year, where am I going to be in a year? And maybe all of a sudden, because you took that weakness and you've just stuck to it, you said, I want to play, and I do believe in myself. That's the other thing. Do you believe in yourself, or you just hope that it'll happen? if you stick to it, can that make a difference? And it probably will.
Yep.
So that gives you another chance to get an invite to a team. Maybe it gives you more options now. Maybe you get 4 invites. Maybe you get 20. Maybe that little bit of improvement, the scouts are watching going, gee, where was he last? This kid is a good player now. We missed the boat on this. And it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And maybe you sit there and you go, I got these 20 teams talking to me now or inviting me, but I'm actually improving. If I do this for another year and I'm 18 years old, maybe I'm going to have 20 NCAA schools calling me now. Now I'm going to have 40 friggin' options. And 40 friggin' options are better than one friggin' option.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Friggin's not a swear.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So now I've got more options, and now I look smarter. And then all of a sudden you get Alex Killorn in the NHL, who went to Harvard and has an education, now is a great second, third line player in the NHL making $6 million a year.
Yep.
So it's sticking to it and believe in yourself.
Yep.
If you do, you have to believe in yourself, though, and you have to be willing to have that stick-to-itiveness. And whether you didn't get drafted or not, but I'm talking about the guys that didn't get drafted, like there's a gut check. It's like you thought you were good, and nobody else did. No one wanted to take a chance on you. And you want to, now I'm going to stick it up everyone's ass right now. You say I can't skate, watch me.
Yep.
Now there's a difference. But a lot of people don't. But a lot of times it's a pity party. Moms and dads talk about what we talked about. It's like, it's bullshit. It's politics, and you try to find another easy way out. Maybe someone else will like me. They go to the easiest place where you get the easiest handout. No, it's going to be hard work.
Oh, yeah. Well, this hits home big time for me because you literally just explained the story of what I went through exactly. Yeah. Right. And like I said, I didn't get drafted. And the last line you just finished off with, that's literally exactly.
What's my last line?
I'll get it to you.
Okay.
My dad said that exact thing to me. After the draft, he said, okay, you thought you were good. No one else thought you were good. Now what do you do? Yeah. Right? And that was basically the message that he gave to me after, because I wasn't expecting to get drafted because it's not like I was a top player or did anything great in my draft year. Right. But that was actually the best thing that happened to me because the next year I did exactly what you said at the start. I ended up playing midget major, had an awesome coach, played a shit ton, and I had the best year of hockey I've ever had. And then I signed halfway through the year with a junior team from that after not getting drafted. And then I played my entire junior career and then got recruited to play at college after that, right? Didn't get drafted at all. And this is an interesting thing too that I like to talk about is, so I was a 94 year, and of all of the 94 year hockey players from here to Chatham, maybe to London, but that might be pushing it, but definitely to Chatham, I had the longest career, like played the longest, other than Kirby Reichel, who was a first round OHL pick, and
first round NHL,
and Chris Scott was another player that played my year. I know they wouldn't care about me talking about them, but so Chris Scott played Sun County. He also didn't get drafted. He made a junior team as a 16-year-old walk-on in his tryout. Had an awesome junior career. He also got recruited to college. We played on the same college team, and then he went over to Europe and played a couple years or a year or whatever pro in some whatever league over there, right? So it went Kirby Reichel, first round OHL, then Chris Scott and me were the next two. Of all the players,
you've said that,
of all the players from Windsor up to Chatham, maybe to London, right? I'm sure there's a couple kids in London. I'm not.
You're talking in a 2-hour radius,
right? That was the order. So all the kids that got their OHL games, all the kids that got drafted, all the kids that this, that, whatever. That is how it ended up for the 94 year, right?
Well, I can go to my hockey and I mean, I've told you before, I'm a mental midget. Didn't have the tools to handle. I don't even want to call it handle. Just didn't know and just didn't know how to take the fight on. Yeah. But I was a high draft pick, played on the under 17s. All the stories were written about me and all the good stuff, and I scored goals like crazy. And then the adversity hit. So I was a high pick, and it was like I didn't know how to fight back. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know. I didn't have the tools how to have that perspective to say, you know what? I've still got 5 years to make my dream come true. I got 5 years. I'll give myself 5. Yeah. But by the time I was at 21 years old, I said, you know what? NHL is not in the picture. I'm just going to Didn't know if I wanted to go through. I don't know. It's hard to say. Well, but I just didn't have that tool. Mm-hmm. Could I have made it? Not saying I would, but I played with some pretty good players that.
Yeah, you did.
and I was one of the good ones. And but I just obviously didn't have that fight, so I approached this the wrong way when I got to the OHL, because that's the thing. I'm saying exactly how it was for me. I said, I'm going to play in the OHL at 16, and I was a high pick, and I did. But that was almost like, okay, the NHL is next, but I'm going to enjoy this, even though the first year I didn't. But you go through the struggles and stuff, and it's like almost the vision disappears. That thing about big dream. The roadblocks would be nothing, but when you start looking at the adversity and you make that bigger than the dream, then you'll fall apart. Yeah, it goes away fast.
Well, and that's one of the benefits, like you mentioned, of not getting drafted. Is
a benefit.
Yeah, if you have enough, what would the word be?
Desire.
If you can persist, if you can stay on top of working, and you can take that punch in the face early, you just got your first dose of humility at 15, 16, and it's like, here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
So you get a leg up in learning how to face that adversity, where some of these kids that get drafted, whether they're a silver spoon type kid or they just get everything given to them off the hop, or they were just really good early, they don't have to face those same kind of things off the hop, right?
Yeah.
So you have the benefit of having to overcome something early, right?
Yeah.
So now you've if you can get through it, which not everybody can, but if you can, and that was something that happened with me, I figured out how to overcome that big setback, push myself through, and move on. And now I have the tools to deal with those hard times, right?
Yeah.
And they came again, right? Like the hard times came again later, right?
Yeah.
But I knew how to handle it to a certain degree afterwards, right? And it didn't make it easy when it happened a second time, right?
Yeah.
But I had experience dealing with this sucks. Like I'm a kid that has to work through it. I know that now. Like I'm a kid that has to work through this crap. I'm gonna get hit with this crap, and some kids don't have that. So those kids, like you were talking about with yourself, you were a high pick, you got all the nice press and all this stuff. Then you got hit with the adversity, but you didn't have the tools. You didn't have the tools. So if you're a kid that doesn't get drafted, you could be in a position where you get the tools early, and then you can push through. And then you have, when adversity hits again later, when it's more important, you'll be able to deal with it even better, right?
And that's the thing, that's the curse of being talented. Like I was talented. Like I know I worked hard. I know that. And I knew I practiced hockey was my everything. But when it came down to the real adversity, hockey probably was too easy for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think, like when I look back, like when I reflect on things a little bit, like I try not to do that too much anymore, but hockey was like I'd play up a couple of years and I'd score at will, and I'd hit, and I'd just play the way I would if I was, I remember being in minor bantam, so at 13, and I got called up to the minor midgets, and I was probably the best player on the team, and there were some high draft picks. I also got called up to major midgets, and I was playing against 16, 17-year-olds at 13. And it was like, no big deal. Hockey was easy for me. Like that was the easiest part.
Yeah.
And then when the real adversity, because it's going to hit you, right? You got to know how to fight through that. If I could reverse engineer that, I would like to be like talented and stuff, but like learn that grit.
Yeah.
Be like hard.
Go into it hard already.
Yeah. Okay, so you scored 3, and I mean, I did everything right, but I mean, I would find a way to maybe find the toughest player on every team I played against, and just try to go grind with this guy and see if you can wear me out. Mm-hmm. Like that's a different way of playing. Yeah. So that if you go to the next level and that's necessary, you learn that. But my role was like go score goals and dominate the game.
Well, yeah, and that's a good tip for kids that do get drafted. Mm-hmm. Is like if you're in a position where you're getting great opportunities off the hop, don't go into it thinking it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows, right? Like go into it and say, okay, like I got a good opportunity. I need to test myself now to make sure that I'm ready for dealing with older players, bigger players, stronger players that just are more battle hardened than me, right? Yeah. Go into it with that attitude because instead of it being forced upon you for a kid that maybe doesn't get drafted, go manufacture it on your own so you can figure out how to deal with it, right? Yeah. Just so that you're not one of those kids that is at a disadvantage because you didn't learn how to deal with adversity, like one of those kids that didn't get drafted before you, right?
Yeah.
So try to put yourself in that tougher situation to harden yourself in those ways, so you don't have to run into that issue later, right?
Yeah. Well, that's why I think it's so important that kids do things that are hard, no matter what. People should do things that are hard, like almost on a daily basis, if not a daily basis, because like when parents just want to make an easy road for their kid, it becomes a hard life, especially in this game, because there's so many hard times. I don't want to make it sound like it's like torture or whatever, but there's hard times. You have to be freaking so tough.
Well, it's
on a daily basis.
It's hard for what you know, right? I mean, problems are relative, right? But for what you know when you're going through it, that's something that it's hard to deal with. We had a good podcast talking about the junior hockey experience before, where it's like there's all these life stressors outside of hockey and in hockey that you have to figure out how to deal with, right? Yeah. Whether it's a coach or your billets or all these other factors. So you have to be able to deal with those things, right? And going into it, like you touched on before, and maybe kind of pushing towards the end here is the being honest part, right? Yeah. It takes the being honest part, right? Yeah. What are you actually good at? What are you actually not good at? Yeah. Where do you actually stand relative to everyone that you're surrounded by, right?
What are you willing to do?
What exactly, right? And those are the things that you can use to gauge. And if you're a parent, you can play the same game too, man. Yeah. Right? To keep yourself in line and to kind of get a perspective on where your kid is at, right? Yeah. You play the honesty game. Like that's what you need to do. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to be one of those, you're going to end up on a podcast in a year and you're going to be the parent we're talking about with this stupid story because you have no perspective on what's going on. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Because if you don't fit, you're not going to sneak through. You're not like here's the thing. If you're not honest with yourself, I think we'll kind of end on this kind of stuff, is you have to learn to be honest with yourself, because if you're not going to bullshit people, the hockey people.
Yep.
You can go
actual hockey people.
Yes, you can make all the connections in the world and pretend, and then you can maybe squeak by in midget and stuff. But if you know your skating is not top notch, if you know you need more speed, or you don't finish, or you don't stop on pucks, like whatever the little thing is, let's just say it's skating. You know that's your issue. You're not squeaking by.
Nope.
You're either going to be able to keep up or you won't be on the team. That's it. That's all. So being honest with yourself is, okay, this is an issue that I need to work at. And I need to work really hard, and probably for a long period of time, because if this is my skill bucket that is a hard one to fill, that's your piece. Mm-hmm. That's your piece you have to do. And be honest. Like, be honest about your ability.
Yeah, because you're not getting away with it, right? Even and to yourself, like you said, you can pretend, right?
Yeah, but the coach is going to say when you're not fast. If it's a skating and you're not faster, and your guys are stripping pucks from you, and you just don't have the speed. Yeah. Not only are you not fooling yourself, you're not. Your coach sees it, your teammates see it, and 6,000 people watching see it. You're not fooling anybody. Yeah. There's a point where, like, water finds its own level. And you'll expose yourself. So you have to know what your weaknesses are, and then again it comes back to this again, is understand that you're probably not going to be Stamkos and Ovechkin and the top guys. So what are your roles? What can you bring to the table? So that's maybe a conversation that you have to have with qualified hockey people to give you actually something, but then do it. Like you always say, okay, get the advice and then do it. Apply the advice, and then take the time. Like it's not gonna happen overnight. Take the time to get better. Whether you're the first overall pick or the last pick in the draft or not drafted at all, take the time to hone your craft. Like, become a professional at what you're doing. If you do it, you give yourself a fighting chance.
Yeah, right? For sure. Well, this will be my little wrap-up piece, and then you can finish it off. Just going back to we're talking about the OHL draft, and like, what does it actually mean, right? What does the draft actually mean? And I hope that everybody, when you listen through this, parents and players, big time parents, but players too, because a lot of kids are going to be like heartbroken to one degree or another on the draft day. But when you listen to this, it's like keep some perspective on what it actually means. Remember, like, some of those names we just read on that draft, right? Mitch Marner didn't go first overall. The last pick of the draft ended up signing in the NHL, and there was about 10 names in the whole draft of 300 players that you would recognize, right? And that is like super significant, right?
And that wasn't a weird year. That's
a standard year. I played the same game before with my draft. Every once in a while when we get on the topic, we look through some of these drafts and it's like, who are these guys? Like, we don't know any of these guys, right? Yeah. So just keep that in mind and be obnoxiously honest with yourself about what what is actually your circumstance as a player, right? It's not the end of the road if you get drafted, and you're not at the finish line if you do get drafted, right? So you have to make sure that you have those things in mind as you progress, drafted or undrafted. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So what does it mean? That's exactly going back to that. What does it mean? It means if you got drafted, you got recognized. Awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah,
it really is.
That's great, man. 100%.
I've seen kids get drafted and they're like really late, and they're like so pumped. They have the hat on. And it's like I did something with hockey that most people would never do.
For sure, it's great.
Like there's if we were to take the 2 AAA teams in this area and combine them, there's kids that are going to get cut. So like just to make that team is you're a good hockey player, but then there's to get drafted and get recognized by someone that gets paid for a living to say, we like you and we want to take a chance on you. It's something, man. Yep. It's something, and it's something to build off of, and that's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, it wasn't your time yet. There's lots of time. There's lots of time to become the best version of yourself in this area. Yep. And that's all I can say. I know that some people will maybe not take it the wrong way, or they hear it but they don't really hear it. And I'm just for the players, this is who I care about the most. There's every player that I work with, but any player that listens. For you, the short-term recognition is cool, but if you're not drafted, who cares? Keep the passion and play. I know I can see it in kids. We talked with Chris Draper when he was on the podcast. It just oozes. The passion of hockey oozes, and what you want to have is just have that passion for hockey. Have that passion, and just buckle down and work on the little things, and give yourself a fighting chance if it's something that you really want. That's my advice. Is just passion, and if you love the game, you're going to be willing to do the stuff that's not fun. And although you probably will find it fun, but you'll be willing to get hurt, like mentally and like you're willing to take some shots to get to your goal. And that's the beauty of the game, really, and of life, is that you persist long enough, you hang around long enough, and you do the right things, you're probably going to get a sniff. And if you're passionate enough, you takes you a lot of places. So that would be my advice there. And not going to be easy. There's a lot of hockey players out there. There's a lot of good hockey players. Find a role that you can maybe contribute to a team with or be willing to do, and that's that. And then the parents, and like try to put some velvet on the sledgehammer. So when you're talking to your kids, you're not always building them up about how great they are and making excuses about you're better than that. Yeah, I heard. Here's a funny one. Charlie scores all the goals because he gets all the ice. That was one of the kids on the team. Charlie gets all the goals because he gets all the ice. It's like, I don't care what they think. But it's like, just look at the player and like, come on, man. Charlie, I don't want to say it like this, but he gets all the goals because he's a really good player. And he gets all the ice because he plays with passion and he's going to do everything he can. But that's the parent that enables that conversation. Come on, man. Like, you're not helping your kid. You're building in a big bucket of excuses for him. It's not a good thing to tell your kid. And when the kid says that, or maybe the parent said it first, but when a kid says that, like my son said something like that, I would straighten him out right away. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to end on that.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, we'll tie it right there because that's a good spot to end. So.
All right.